Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Well, a proposed housing development on the Eastern Shore has endured a setback, with Clarence Council refusing to extend an urban boundary. The decision sparking a war of words, with the government and council pointing the finger at each other.
A sky-high plan shot down. The Skylands development proposed for Tranmere suffering a complication.
The view from colleagues was that it ought not be on a piecemeal basis, that it should be whole of region.
Backed by American-based Greg Carr, it was looking to deliver 2,500 homes on Druthi Point, seeking to expand the urban growth boundary by 58 hectares. Clarence Council voted it down 9-3.
The view from councillors, the majority of councillors, was that there wasn't a strong case to extend the urban growth boundary.
I think Greg was probably very hurt. He was deeply involved with the DPZ planning.
One community group says it's a wake-up call for future developments.
Let's make sure that we actually have commitment and infrastructure in place to support any further extensions of the urban growth boundary.
Not all, however, welcome the decision.
For the life of me, I do not understand why the Clarence City Council has made such a decision. This was one opportunity. They haven't taken that opportunity. It's extremely disappointing.
Clarence councillors and the opposition laying the blame squarely at the state government and its planning laws.
The urban growth boundary was outdated before it was enacted, and that was 12 years ago. Quite frankly, if it was a vehicle, I'd call it a clown car.
And as long as the urban growth boundary isn't reviewed, we're going to see these ad hoc decisions.
In a statement, Planning Minister Michael Ferguson says he will look at what action the government can take, criticising council for not listening to their own experts. John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Grace Thames, childhood abuser, has pleaded not guilty to allegedly harassing the former Australian of the Year on Twitter. Nicholas Bester appeared in the Magistrates Court in Hobart, remaining silent as the plea was entered.
Supported by family and her partner, the 2021 Australian of the Year and strong advocate for survivors of sexual assault, Grace Thames sat just metres away inside court from the man who abused her as a schoolgirl. Nicholas Bester was hit with fresh charges back in October on 3 counts of using a carriage service to menace, harass or cause offence between April and August. Facing court today, he pled not guilty over alleged posts directed and related to Tame on social media. The disgraced teacher was jailed back in 2011 for abusing Tame, who was just 15 at the time. Defence lawyer Todd Kozovich told Magistrate Andrew McKee an agreement had been reached for the matter to be dealt with in summary jurisdiction, rather than taking the charges to the Supreme Court. Bester was bailed under the same conditions and will reappear in the Hobart Magistrates Court for a contest mention, which aims to narrow the issues in dispute on April 27. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
A motorist has been taken to the Launceston General Hospital in a serious condition after a crash on the East Tamar Highway this afternoon near Rochalee. Emergency services were called to the scene around 4:30. The road was closed while police investigated, and it reopened a short time ago. The Robbins Island wind farm proposal could be shelved if an appeal is not successful. The developers say the condition to have the site shut down for 5 months each year would make the project unsustainable, and they're not the only group lodging an appeal.
6 years later and still no sod turned on the Robbins Island wind farm.
We've spent over $15 million to get to this development to this place.
The project now facing another 6-month delay after the developers made the call to appeal a clause in the proposal, which would see the site shut down for 5 months a year while the orange-bellied parrot migrates. But ACEN's research disputes the EPA's claims.
The bird does not necessarily fly over the island. They've taken the effectively do-nothing approach to avoid harm.
We know from the science that there are more birds that nest on this Robbins Island than anywhere in Tasmania combined. That's a very important part of Tasmania that we need protected.
The proponents say the clause puts the whole project at risk.
We considered the economics of running the project with the turbine shut down for 5 months of the year. There is also increased maintenance costs associated with leaving the turbine sitting down, and we came to the conclusion that we could not make a viable project.
The Environmental Protection Authority has imposed conditions during construction and operation to reduce the risk of impact to threatened fauna. The Bob Brown Foundation is also appealing the Council's approval of the project.
That the Circular Head Council and EPA have approved the project based on not knowing where the turbines are going, how many turbines there are. What is clear is that this is an area that is important for special migratory species, important for critically endangered species to survive.
Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmania News.
It has now been confirmed all public schools will temporarily close their doors this Friday afternoon, with thousands of teachers expected to walk off the job. Our reporter Grace Evans is with us with all the details. And Grace, what are parents and carers expected to do?
Well, Kim, across the state, they'll need to pick up their children at all government schools from 1 o'clock this Friday. But they are encouraged to talk to their individual campuses for any exceptions that are being made. Now, it comes as a number of education staff plan to take strike action to call for more in-class support. Now, the AEU has slammed the government's decision to close schools. They're saying it's opting to lock students out of classes instead of just providing the resources needed to lift learning.
The Minister today has decided to close schools on Friday. He had the chance to step into our negotiations and to put forward legitimate funding that could have brought an end to this. But instead, he has taken the easy option and chosen to close schools.
Education Minister Roger Yench has again reiterated his disappointment. He's urging the AEU to call off what he says is unnecessary action. He's also pushing for the union to present the government's latest offer to its members so their views can be heard. Kim?
Well, land owned by the state government is set to deliver more than 20 new units for those on our lengthy housing register. 19 two-bedroom and 3 one-bedroom units are currently being built in Chigwell. The Housing Minister says with more houses needed to meet demand, future developments must use land more efficiently.
Just 4 units here were demolished to create 22 units. So we have to be more innovative.
There's some 240 people on the priority end of the wait list in categories of 1 or 2 bedroom in the Chigwell municipality northern suburbs. So these will go a substantial way.
The development is expected to be completed by September. Well, it's been wet and wild, and Tasmanians are being warned to brace for more damaging wind gusts. Snow is forecast down to 800 metres and storms are set to sweep across the state tonight. SES crews are working closely with the Weather Bureau with the potential for trees and power lines to be brought down in the wild conditions. The road to the Canungy Mount Wellington summit has been closed as a result. Peter Murphy will have all the weather details later in the bulletin. Tasmania's tourism industry is trending upwards, with the accommodation sector breaking records for the month of January. The hospitality sector is expecting more benchmarks to be set in the coming months as extra high-profile events touch down in the island state.
Business is booming in Tasmania, with the accommodation sector setting new benchmarks.
It's great to see a record month of January for the north. It's really impressive. Obviously, the venues have done really well.
Launceston's Balmoral on York has reaped the benefits, experiencing a bustling New Year period.
Amazing, just amazing. I mean, we've gone through a bit of pain. We were about $1 million down over the pandemic ourselves, and to have those numbers back, it's quite high for January, but February and March are even better. So February will be in the mid-90s.
New data from the Tasmanian Hospitality Association reveals the North came out on top with nearly 89% of rooms filled in January, eclipsing pre-pandemic levels. The South sitting 6% lower, with nearly 4 out of 5 beds booked on the northwest.
Across the whole state was extremely strong, which is real positive for everyone.
The fact that people couldn't travel for so long, it's the appetite for what we offer here in Tasmania. The natural resources we have, the friendliness, the location. It's so easy to travel around.
And the stronger than normal season is only set to continue.
We expect the February and March statistics to be extremely strong, if not records as well.
March is sold out nearly every night. March is a new record. Moving forward, April is looking quite strong as well.
What it does is set us up for a bumper year. We know that we've got some large-scale events to come, foreshadowing the Australian Musical Theatre Festival, footy in April and May, and of course Symmons Plains. So we know that some of those big events are still going to continue that upward trend.
With businesses booking out, the message is to get in quick. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
A work never before seen in Tasmania will showcase the history between trans-Tasman culture and its colonial upheavals. 10 days on the island, launching Nomads of the Sea by world-renowned Maori artist Lisa Raihana, which explores the state's convict history. It has a part focus on Charlotte Badger, a female convict from Van Diemen's Land.
The mythology goes she stole a ship, she was aboard a ship and she mutinied and shot someone and then sailed across to Aotearoa, New Zealand, and that's all shown also in this work.
We're really honoured to have Lisa's work here. Nomads of the Sea is an internationally acclaimed work by Lisa. To bring that to Tasmanian audiences, particularly here in Launceston, is a real coup for us.
The immersive 3D installation artwork will be on show until May. And ahead of International Women's Day, Tasmanian women are being encouraged to shore up their financial future by getting a will and estate plan. With females on average outliving their male spouses by 4 years, the public trustee says it will ensure protection and support when it's needed most.
Well, what we know is that women are the ones that often take the initiative when it comes to making financial decisions. So we're calling on women to take that first step and plan ahead.
A timely message with more than 50% of Tasmanians dying without a will in place. Spirit Super has slashed insurance premiums for its members, with new reductions taking effect. It will see a $51 million saving for Spirit members over 3 years. The superannuation fund is reassuring its members the level of cover will remain the same.
A Tasmanian teenager has eclipsed a decades-old athletics record, and he didn't even realise until well after the race. Will Bottle only found out he'd become the state's fastest walker over 5,000 metres after a deep dive into the athletics archive. And now he's looking to make more history. For Will Bottle, today was just a walk in the park, but his fastest feet flipping came at last week's Victorian Championships, where Bottle shattered the Tasmanian Open record for the 5,000 metre walk.
I used to play lots of sports and I didn't really love all of them as much as I love walking, so I thought I may as well give walking a good crack.
Only now he's found out his time was the quickest by a Tasmanian in 32 years.
I just had to go for it, really.
Perhaps part of the magic comes from his coach.
He gets the silver.
Olympian Jared Talent has been guiding the 17-year-old remotely from Adelaide.
He's really determined, he's really focused, and he really wants to work hard.
And that hard work will only pick up as Bottle eyes next year's World Junior Championships, which could lead to the Olympics.
I have let him know that he's actually faster than me as a junior at the minute, so he's definitely progressing well. He's got a good endurance base and big aerobic capacity, which is great, but it's more about, being strong in the head and willing to do the hard work.
And while Bottle's height is typically seen as a drawback for pro walkers, the hot-footed college student sees it differently.
Don't have to do as many steps.
The next step could be his biggest one yet. Billy Stanlake's return to cricket was delayed as Tasmania's batters ran riot on the opening day of their second 11 clash against Victoria. Stanlake watched the Tigers get off to a positive start in their first innings. Charlie Wakeham, the star, making a century off 150 balls, eventually finishing on 161 at stumps. The Tigers reached 4 for 337 before rain stopped play late this afternoon.
Good evening. Hobart 20 degrees today, Launceston 19, 18 for Devonport and 1 cooler in Burnie. All temperatures below average, some by up to 8 degrees. Friendly Beaches 20, St Helens Grove, Bushy Park and Flinders Island 19. King Island and Low Head 18 today, Strawn 14, Lyreweenie just 9 and a bit of rain sweeping through too. To 9 a.m. Mount Reid had 45 millimetres, Strawn 25 and Launceston 16. Of course rain fell today and the swirling cloud moved over Tasmania and rain continues this evening. To 4 o'clock, Darwin Dam Sam, the highest fall with 25 millimetres. More cloud is over northwest Queensland, creeping over the territory. A mid to high level cloud band over inland Queensland. Low level cloud over the southern coastline of the country. Tomorrow, the monsoon trough still acting up there over the north. A high south of Perth extends a ridge over the interior, and a trough over our region moves to the east. Winds still stiff and westerly at 25 to 35 knots and up to 40 knots over southern waters. Swells up to 6 metres in the west and south. Gale warning between Wineglass Bay clockwise to St Helens Point. A strong wind warning for remaining coastal waters, including the upper east coast, and a severe weather warning for damaging winds. Also, throw into that mix a sheep graziers alert and a bushwalkers alert as well, as you'd imagine. 16 for Hobart, a cool one, shower or two, showers for Geefston, a top of 14 and just 12 for Bothwell. Launceston tomorrow, partly cloudy and 16 as the rain clears overnight. Devonport partly cloudy and 17, 16 for Cressy. Burnie expecting a top of 15 degrees, a windy day still in the west, Strawn 15, 16 the top for Curry on King Island. And for St Helens, bit of sunshine, 18 the top, 18 for Swansea, Orford a top of 16 degrees. UV dropping down to 6 but still regarded as high. On Thursday, early showers over the west and far south, and Bass Strait contracting to the west later. Conditions on the improve on Friday. Fine and partly cloudy, the chance of another shower though for Strawn, and similar weather as we head into the long weekend. Showery but still warm in Perth. A shower also for Adelaide and Melbourne. Fine and warm weather for Sydney and Brisbane. Stormy conditions over Darwin. And it's inclement at the moment. Raining in Hobart, 11 right now, 13 in Launceston, Devonport 13 degrees. The windy weather set to continue, Kim. Actually this morning I got up early and went to go to the paper shop, but it blew away.
Gee, that's terrible. Thanks, Murph. That wraps up tonight's news. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for joining us. For now, it is good night.